Hello, Facebook friends, citizens of America and the planet. Welcome to tonight's Fireside chat. Tonight we're going to focus on the not-so-new strategy in Afghanistan. As you've all heard, our so-called president will be sending in more troops into Afghanistan, another 4,000 or so to join the 8,000 that are already there. But we're also told that, in fact, we're not going to be given very specific numbers or specific developments. This is kind of, the commanders being cut loose to go ahead and do what they want in this administration, which has really been largely turned over to the generals, including the head of the Department of Defense, the chief of staff, and a couple of others. We have really, in this administration, more control by the military than we ever have had before, including in positions that are not supposed to be turned over to the military. James Mattis, for example, the general, the retired general now heading the Department of Defense, that's supposed to be a civilian position. He required special clearance. So anyhow, we're getting sort of the general's policy right now on Afghanistan, and as you may know, this so-called new policy is not so new. In fact, it's just sort of a shadow of the prior surge of some 100,000 troops. And it does make you ask, what are we going to accomplish with 12,000 troops that we couldn't do with 100,000 troops? So you have to wonder, what is driving this new policy? What do you think? Is this to distract from the very bad week that Donald Trump had? Is this because of the new mineral wealth that's been recognized in Afghanistan? Some $1 trillion worth of, iron, cobalt, copper, gold, lithium, all these, this treasure trove that's just waiting for, the usual suspects to come and try to claim them. So, the longest war in our history, this 16-year war, which unfortunately we have been not doing so well at, is just getting a new lease on life here with Donald Trump's renewed commitment of more troops. No date of withdrawal, no specific conditions for withdrawal. And supposedly Donald Trump has said he will use all instruments of power, but that is diplomacy, military, and economic, but we really haven't heard anything about these new instruments of power other than the usual military forces. And the commanders will be given more freedom to just do what they want without having to follow restraints that previously held back the number of civilian casualties. Those numbers have gone off the charts. They are higher than they have been at any time over the past 5 years at least. Altogether, it's something now like 3,500 U.S. military and civilian contractors who've lost their lives, and 26,000 Afghans who have died just since 2009. Other sources report over 100,000 people killed in Afghanistan as a result of the armed conflict since 2001. So, where are we going? We're building more bases. There are apparently 9 permanent military bases, U.S. and NATO bases now. And remember, when you want to really curse out Donald Trump for this policy, remember this is just a shadow of what was done under Obama. And what do we have to show for it? The same thing that we have to show in other countries where we have basically established regime change. the Taliban is stronger than ever in Afghanistan, controls more territory, about 40% of the country. And this is generally the rule in regime change, that you have failed states, mass refugee migrations, and worse terrorist threats. So hasn't been the most successful policy. It's a shame that we seem to have people in Washington in both parties who just kind of continue on their merry way, funded by the military-industrial complex, by the war industry, who seem to be the only ones that are profiting, plus perhaps, those who are intent on extracting the mineral wealth from Afghanistan, which again, of course, belongs to the people of Afghanistan and should not be the price that they pay in addition to the price of blood, violence, the destruction of their democracy, continuing corruption of their government, and so on, that has been accomplished under this war regime that has reigned supreme for the last several decades. In fact, even before the U.S. invasion following 9/11. Remember this when you're getting really pissed off at Donald Trump and the Republican administration, that this is a mere shadow of the Afghanistan war under Obama, and furthermore, that Democrats in the House of Representatives just recently voted for a military budget which is even bigger than the defense budget proposed by Donald Trump. How much bigger? $72 billion bigger. What is $72 billion? Well, that happens to be bigger than the size of the Russian Federation. So got that? The increase in our military budget alone, which is about a 10% increase, or I should say the increase voted by the House of Representatives, is actually larger. Just that increase amount, the $72 billion, is larger than the entire military budget of the Russian Federation. So, we've got a world that is being destroyed by war and militarism right now, and almost 1,000 bases in almost 100 countries run by the U.S., that is, these bases that are run by the U.S. And what are they getting us? Not a whole lot. There are these 9 bases in Afghanistan. There are 83 U.S. military bases in South Korea. The South Koreans want them out. They want peace. This model of regime change isn't doing very well. And now they're talking about bringing that regime change to North Korea. So let's hope that doesn't happen. You throw in the disaster of regime change, and then you add nuclear weapons, and then you add great powers like Russia and China, and you have a disaster. So, don't mean to rant about Korea here, but there is a common theme here, which is that war is not working. War is not the way forward for us, and we have seen that so powerfully demonstrated by these 16 years of endless violence and disastrous results in Afghanistan. So, and then remembering back to the 1980s when the CIA went into Afghanistan in order to basically undermine Soviet influence in Afghanistan. And the Mujahideen was essentially supported by U.S. arms and support for arms. And we trained Osama bin Laden and others. So this was the beginning of our rather long and disastrous relationship with terrorist forces, with one hand funding them and the other hand fighting them. Hasn't worked out so well. I'm going to mention just a couple other things. I invite you to like this conversation, share this conversation. It's our information, it's our empowerment that enables us to stand up and change our direction. So please share this, like it, get the word out that we are resisting. A brief word of follow-up, in Boston last weekend, we resisted, and I am so proud of my hometown here in Boston, that we stood up strong and we stood up together to white supremacy. And in the wake of the disaster and the tragedy in Charlottesville, we mobilized and we turned out 40,000 strong, and the white supremacists were about 40 strong, a couple dozen. So it really did set the terms of, where we the people stand. It was largely a peaceful event. It was disarmed, and people did not come with weapons. And we came with love, and we came with peace. I had to be out of town with a long-scheduled family engagement, so I'm sorry I wasn't there. But I was there in spirit, and I speak we for Boston, that stood up for all of us. And this is the answer to white supremacy and racism. The answer is democracy, human rights, and community and love. That's the answer. As Martin Luther King put it, it's a choice between chaos and community. In Boston, we stood up with community. That's the answer, in Afghanistan as well. We need to sit down, we need to negotiate, we need to withdraw. Maintaining our troops is not solving things. We need to create a new pathway forward for peace, democracy, largely by getting out of the way and stopping supporting this endless conflict, this unending stream of years of violence in Afghanistan. In the wake of Boston last weekend, by the way, you may have heard that some 67 white supremacy demonstrations have now been canceled because reality got tested here a little bit, and people got to see exactly how these forces balance out against each other, and we the people are standing up strong for human rights and the community that we deserve, standing with our immigrant brothers and sisters, our African American brothers and sisters, the LGBTQ community, the Jewish community, immigrants, Muslims, all of those people, the disabled, all of those who have been threatened and disparaged by the white supremacist and racist community. It's clear, really, where the power lies, where the humanity lies, and we're standing up strong together. I want to mention also one other thing real quickly, and this is in follow-up on the recount. And for those who haven't been following, there are court cases, one which is ongoing in Pennsylvania, another one which is working its way towards the courts in Wisconsin, and we're working through the election apparatus right now still. And in addition, everyday people who were fighting the battle of the recount, who were fighting to ensure that we have a voting system we can trust, which is accurate, secure, and just. In Allegheny County in Pennsylvania, a group formed for election integrity. They are called Don't Tread on My Vote. You can look them up, you can Google them. They have petitioned the county to establish a commission to verify that their voting machines are working correctly. So they actually want to do a forensic analysis, as we have been attempting to do in the recount. We're trying now to do that through court, to actually look at the voting machines. Part of Allegheny County went through the motions of a recount, but what was it? They just actually had the machines print out the same little computer tape, and they compared the computer tape that reported vote counts, vote totals, against vote totals taken off of the internal software. So it was really just a check on internal consistency. But it didn't look at the software to see whether the software has been tampered with, to see whether those vote counts have been altered in any way. So it's kind of a useless pretense of a recount. It didn't really happen. The people of Allegheny County are standing up to say they want a real recount. They want a voting system we can trust. At a time when we are seeing more and more evidence of hacking, and we don't know from who. There are claims, some of it, it's said was done by Russians, but the evidence for that is not clear. What is clear is that it's being hacked. That's very clear, and it's both the computers of local election officials, it's the voter registration databases, it's a variety of systems, it's the private software developers as well, developing the voter registration software. So it's like when you see that all the stores around the bank are being robbed, you have to wonder if the bank was robbed. And you can't tell unless you actually go in and you look and you count the cash. So we need to count the cash, and furthermore, we need to make sure that the doors aren't wide open to the bank after everybody goes home. And that's sort of the status of security, cybersecurity in our election system right now. It's completely unprotected. It needs state-of-the-art cyber security standards. It needs paper ballots that are hand-marked and which are recountable and which are audited. This isn't rocket science. This is just basic democracy. We need to do it. So there's your updates. I'm going to turn now to some shout-outs. Okay, so people are asking, did I get beat up, or what? Actually, I had a small basal cell excised. I've got 6 stitches in there. It's doing very well. Thank you for asking. And I'm so grateful that I have Medicare. This is why we need to fight for everybody to have Medicare. You shouldn't have to wait until the skin cancer begins to really become a serious problem. If you get it taken care of early, if you can undergo screening, these are just like the most simple, basic things about healthcare, and everybody should be able to afford that. So thank you for asking. Luna Lianhe says, love from Peru. Love back to you, Luna. Victor Lombardo says, hi, Jill. Lou Novak, hello from Detroit. Susan Fredericks, wishing you healing and best of luck always. Thank you for all you do. You're an inspiration and wonderful warrior for people, planet, and peace, as we all are on this fireside chat, which is why I love talking with you and hearing your comments. Tracy Aria Curry, thank you for speaking out. Melissa Delon, I'm so happy I voted for you. Thanks for your hard work. Ron Lyon, thank you for all you do. We're so proud of you. Mutaza Ali, love from Pakistan. Love back to you in Pakistan. And again, one of the things about Donald Trump's so-called new strategy in Afghanistan is that he's threatening to bring in India as a way to sort of manipulate Pakistan. There are issues here going on all over related to U.S. relationship to so-called terrorists, our funding of extremist groups, and also, the terror that we bring from the skies, including from drones and the wars that we've been conducting. So if you want to build terrorist opposition, there's no better way to do it than exactly what U.S. foreign policy has been. So this is why we need to take the military and economic domination out of our foreign policy. And we need to do right by our neighbors, our fellow citizens of the planet in Pakistan, in India, not be playing them off of each other. We need to participate, by the way, and lead the way in nuclear weapons abolition. The United Nations just passed that treaty. Couple months ago, about 2 months ago, passed a treaty making nuclear weapons illegal. So once we do that, we can begin to solve all these conflicts without worrying about them blowing us all to smithereens. Daryl Dabashi says, aloha from Kauai. I'm not saying that right. Kauai. So apologies for mispronouncing that. But hello back to you, Daryl. Jerome Reese Simmons, love to you from New York City. Callie Grieve, wishing you quick healing from that surgery. Joy Davis, love from Texas. Back to you, Joy. Vita Bala from Flint. Hello to Flint. Best wishes to Flint. Keep fighting in Flint. And my greatest respects and honor to the people in Flint who are fighting for the right to water right there next to and in community with Standing Rock. Thank you all for fighting for our water, for our right to homes and affordable housing too. Vita Bala, again in Flint. Vicki Hunter Lennon, love from Texas. Kyle Brackett, hey, from Birmingham, Alabama. We met during the campaign. Wonderful. Neil Hustis, love from Vancouver, Canada. Oscar Smith, Nicaragua is here for you. Love these ideas. We want a Green Party. Thank you so much, Oscar. I was so thrilled when I was in Korea, in South Korea, to see that the Korean Green Party is going gangbusters in the area where people are standing up for human rights, resisting militarism, resisting the so-called THAAD missile system, supposedly an anti-missile system, but it's believed to actually be a radar system to spy on China and Russia. The people who are standing up and fighting THAAD have become Greens. They were telling me one after the other that they too have joined the Green Party in Korea because it is, again, a party of, by, and for the people, a party for all of us who are standing up for a world that works for all of us. Tanya Tavar Renteria, hello from Utah. So here comes some thoughts, comments, and questions. Joe Caparello, North Korea wants a peace treaty with the U.S., but does North Korea want a peace treaty with South Korea? So I learned so much by going to South Korea and learning from the South Koreans who've been living with this divided country, really a divided family, families who've been torn apart, parents and their kids and cousins who've been divided by this 38th parallel DMZ, this so-called demilitarized zone, which is really extremely militarized. It's a hyper-militarized zone. There's nothing that the Koreans want more than to be able to deal with each other and to work this out. And they basically want us to get out of the way so they can work this out. And that means, ceasing the threats, because it's been that threat of a nuclear bomb against North Korea, which has been around for decades. We have been running these mock war games for decades that have basically intimidated North Korea into feeling like they need a nuclear deterrent. And as our own Director of National Security, Dan Coates himself, said recently at a national security conference, there is rationale and real rational thinking here to North Korea's strategy. They understand if they're going to deter U.S. aggression, then they have needed that nuclear weapon. That's why they are on track to developing one. They have one. The question is how powerful and how far can it go? I mean, it can go far enough to create a lot of destruction, which is why we need to sit down and talk. And when we have sat down and talked before, North Korea has actually stepped up to the plate. They've even destroyed some of their power plants in the past as part of an agreement. They have basically carried out their side of the bargain until we withdrew. And we have not proven ourselves to be a very reliable partner here. So we need to get with the program. It's understandable that North Korea has got its guard up. So we need to start working together. South Korea wants nothing more than to be able to work with North Korea. And they're quite confident that they can do that. They've had, for example, economic development programs together with North Korea, the beginnings of family exchanges and citizen exchanges. So they got the program. They don't need us to tell them how to do it. They just need us to kind of stop threatening North Korea and pushing them into defensive and then aggressive postures. So this isn't rocket science. We can work this out. So, someone is saying here, would you recommend the U.S. sign, sorry, I lost my question. Would you recommend the U.S. sign a peace treaty with North Korea if North Korea refuses to recognize South Korea as a sovereign country? What would you suggest the U.S. do to get North Korea to recognize South Korea? So let me tell you, I didn't hear that from a single person in South Korea. They don't recognize this as a problem. I'm not sure where you are hearing about this as a problem. They feel like they have great capacity to move forward in developing a relationship with North Korea. And they feel like they have a good understanding of sort of the psychology of this process, and they don't need us to be sort of the policeman coming in here to make it happen. They would like, basically, what they want us to do is to withdraw the THAAD missile system and for us to stop threatening North Korea and to stop the war games. That is what the people of South Korea want. I urge you to go to the website that's called NoTHAAD.org. NoTHAAD, T-H-A-A-D. THAAD is the name of this missile system, the Terminal High Altitude Aerial Defense. You don't need to remember that. Just remember THAAD. NoTHAAD.org. There is a petition there, which we're calling the People's Petition for Peace. It's a joint South Korea-U.S. petition. You'll see it. It's posted in Korean as well as in English. It's now been translated also into Chinese and Japanese. Probably it will go into Russian as well. And it is, it's for we the people of the world, we the peace-loving people who are not well served by this military-industrial complex, this neoliberal empire, which is a force for war all over the world. This is about our getting together to say that there's a global crisis going on in Korea. We need to stand up and stop that global crisis. So we need to balance this global force for war. We need a global force for peace. Go to NoTHAAD.org and sign that petition. You'll see the petition right there when you go to that website. Click on the link and sign that petition. Tell your friends we need at least 100,000 signatures to get this started. This is a people's peace petition for us to change the way forward and to let the war industry know that we're not going to just sit by and let them destroy the planet, which is what they're doing. We the people have the numbers, we have the moral authority, we have the solutions. What we need is to get organized, and this petition helps us start to do that. James Mandelari says, do you ever despair that we will ever defeat the powerful interest that makes billions off the blood of war? The corporate states control the economy of the world that's based on war. The shadow government controls the voting machines, and the CIA, Pentagon ruling the nation. How can people defeat these powerful fascist interests? So I'd say how we defeat them is by joining together, because there's not a single issue here that can't be solved, whether it's the crisis in Korea or Afghanistan or the white nationalists. When we're organized and we stand up together, we totally overwhelm them and we outnumber them. It's an example of what Alice Walker said, that the biggest way people give up power is by not knowing we have it. So we have it, now we just need to get organized to use it. So I urge you to stay tuned to this website, to join your local Green Party, because we are running candidates who actually challenge power. And by supporting those candidates, especially at the local level, just remember this one thing: the number of young people who are locked into predatory student loan debt, that's enough to win any three-way race. This is 44 million people nationally. So it's a lot of people. And, the name of the game is, by running races based on canceling student debt, bailing out the students like we bailed out the crooks on Wall Street, and by making public higher education free, we actually can bring people in and gain the support that we need to win. The name of the game here is all about getting organized. They want you to feel hopeless, because if you're hopeless, you're powerless. But remember, I wouldn't say hopeful, but by being informed and empowered, it's not about hope, it's about power. By recognizing your power, that is an act of defiance. That is a revolutionary act in and of itself. That is essentially all it takes. The courage of our own convictions, to stand up together, to act together. The minute we do that, we are unstoppable. John Freck says, there's a lot of organized, infiltrated, state-supported terrorism near oil and gas production. This is absolutely true. Who benefits if a significant disruption occurs? It depends. Many factors. Anything on energy. Yes, I mean, everything on energy. If instead of fighting these battles for oil and oil resources or energy resources, instead of putting that money into the military, we were instead using that money to transform our energy system to a clean energy system that is renewables. And we were spending those dollars creating a regenerative form of agriculture. That's like organic agriculture, plus it rotates crops and it rotates grazing animals. It turns out that reverses climate change. It actually pulls the carbon down out of the atmosphere twice as fast as we can actually do by converting to renewable energy. So we can double the rate. You know, it's like going to zero and then going much farther into negative carbon production. So we can do all of that. Energy is a totally solvable problem. This is about us standing up with the numbers that we need in order to throw the bums out and actually win these races. And I just saw a question go by asking to please repeat the website for the People's Petition for Peace. That website is nothad.org. So it's no and then the word THAAD, THAAD. It rhymes with sad, except it's a TH, THAAD, and it's a double A. THAAD.org. nothad.org. You can find the petition there. Please sign it and share it. Chris Twanya Schmidt says, I was glad to see you go to South Korea with Medea Benjamin. Yes, and a big shout out for Medea, an incredible human rights advocate. We all need more people-to-people involvement around the world. I'm a Green Party member who's interacting in friendship with over 1,200 friends on Facebook in Afghanistan, Pakistan, the Middle East, and African countries. None of them want these wars to continue. Thank you so much, Chris Twanya Schmidt. And I would really urge you, Chris, please share the People's Petition for Peace with your international friends, because it's by standing up as friends together that we can focus our power on one hot spot after another. So let's focus on Korea right now while it's on the verge of a nuclear meltdown, and then we can focus on Afghanistan, and we can go on from there. Oh, and I'm just getting a message here from Madhu, who's helping behind the scenes tonight. I made a mistake. It's not no THAAD. I'm very sorry. It's Stop THAAD. All right? It's stopthaad.org. Stop, THAAD.org. And I beg your pardon. I'm very sorry. I got that one wrong. But hopefully we've corrected it, and we will put that on the Facebook page after this program so you can see it beneath this broadcast as well. And in the last few minutes here remaining, okay, Kelly Greaves says, what's the latest on the cabal, the Commission on Presidential Debates? So they are being challenged in court. Latest I heard, that case was still pending. Again, you know, I think this is a matter of us getting organized. Another thing we are working on is ranked choice voting, so that you can actually vote your values. You can vote for who you're for, not against who you fear, because that politics of fear has delivered everything we were afraid of. All the reasons you're told to vote for the lesser evil, that's exactly what we've gotten by the droves, because we allowed ourselves to be silenced and to let the lesser evil speak for us. So when you've got ranked choice voting, you don't have to figure out which one is the lesser evil. You just vote your values and you rank your choices. If your first choice is loses, your vote is automatically reassigned to your second choice. So this ends that politics of fear. There is a movement to pass this now in Massachusetts. It was just passed in Maine. In Massachusetts, it's called Voter Choice MA, voterchoicema.org, I believe, and we'll check that one as well. And you can get involved, you can make a contribution, you can help canvass, and pass voter choice as well. That takes more lead time. The the debates is a fight. We can fight from now right up until the election. But the voting system really requires quite a bit of lead time, so I urge you to get involved with ranked choice voting in your state. Fair Vote and that's fairvote.org, is one of the organizations that's helping to coordinate that. So let me get one or two more here. Mike Mazer is saying, what can I do as a young concerned activist in Indiana? So what I would encourage you to do, Indiana, the heartland with the farming community, many of which was displaced, struggling family farms, everyday Americans who are struggling for jobs, for education, and for health care. These are and for racial justice everywhere across America. These struggles, are repeated in city after city, in countryside after countryside across the country. I urge you to look up your local Green Party. We are in just about every state now. Look up your local Green Party and connect with them. And get involved in local candidates running in local races, so you can bring whatever the issues are that are closest to your heart into those local races. Consider throwing in your hat as a candidate or helping your party. There's no better way to learn how to be a candidate than by actually helping a candidate, by doing door knocking, by getting involved in any of the issues, whether it's Black Lives Matter, whether it is preventing deportations, whether it is anti-mass incarceration, legalization of marijuana. I mean, it's just astounding. The corporations have repeated their blueprint from state to state. So as the peace-loving people of the planet, we need to get together and have our blueprint, which also gets repeated from state to state. We do have the numbers. We got the solutions. We need to take the power. It's all about making that contact. So we are just about at stop time. Someone here is saying, Dana Scruggs is saying, you and Bernie need to run as a team for the Green Party, ? I have to say Bernie has been asked over and over. Bernie seems to be a pretty confirmed Democrat for now. But there's nothing, I think, that would make Bernie and everybody else start to seriously rethink their political allegiance than our starting to win local and regional races. So the name of the game here is getting involved, getting behind the candidates who are fighting those battles we need for healthcare and jobs, for the climate, to stop the wars, to put our dollars into our true needs here at home, to stop the police violence and the deportations. We can solve all of this. This is just about our getting together. We've got the numbers. We have the power. It's all about standing up to use it. So I'm going to let you go. It's almost our closing time here. So I'll say once again, thank you so much. We the people do have the power. Forget the lesser evil. Fight for the greater good like our lives depend on it, because they do. We do have the power to create an America and a world that works for all of us. That power is in our hands. Thank you so much. Good night. See you next week. Green news is good news. Take care.